What's up, everybody? Today we're talking about Damien Leone's Terrifier 3, and unless you live on planet Mars, whether it's through word of mouth or popularization of the merchandise, especially in stores like Spirit Halloween, Terrifier is more prevalent now than ever. This was certainly one of my most anticipated movies of the year, because personally I think that Damien has evolved Art's character and story as the movies go on. After Art's stints in the anthologies that introduced him, he really found his audience through the visceral imagery of the original Terrifier on such a low budget. Terrifier 2 really showed that it's possible to keep him as intense or arguably more intense than the original while giving him an actual screenplay and substance, something that the original really lacked and was one of my biggest complaints about it. Personally, I love what they did with Terrifier 2 because I found it to be a significant step up in quality compared to the original. And so because of obvious reasons, Terrifier 3 is one of the most hyped and anticipated movies of the year, right alongside with Nosferatu and Maxine. Easily one of the strongest aspects of this film was that it balanced very well the supernatural element that was introduced in the sequel alongside the more grindhouse and gritty textures of the original. The pacing, which while it could still be improved, it was still significantly better than the first two movies. It very much reminded me of 2002's Spider-Man, where you'd get a scene of our hero main cast and then it'd switch to a scene of Art and his antics and it'd go back and forth basically until the end of the movie. One of the most known issues of this series is that the first two movies are long. And let's be honest, you feel the runtime in those movies, but they really reeled it in this time, and it's just barely over 2 hours, and I think it really helped to not feel fatigued by the end. Also, I really love that as the movies go on, we really keep steering away from, oh, look at this dude, what a maniac. Like, obviously he's still a psycho and a menace to society, but there's more substance to the movies as they go on, and this follow-up kept growing in that sense. David Howard Thornton is still showing ways of making Art disturbing and sadistic as ever, and I love that he never lets Art feel stagnant by constantly pushing the boundaries of what he can do as Art. The continuation of the characters that we met in the sequel also get vastly improved, with the exception of one, because the sequel worked in introducing us to these characters, and their charm really made me like them a lot. So getting to flesh them out in this film was great, because the groundwork was already done in the previous movie. And in general, they're just really likable characters. Lauren Lavera as Sienna is a great addition to the Final Girl catalog, and so because of what we saw her already fight through, her progression doesn't feel weakened or regress in this film. So her struggle with survivor's guilt was extremely effective, and you sympathize with her because of that. The character of Vicky was also a delightful surprise because they don't let her just keep being a cameo. She's actually a character in the narrative and is extremely unsettling. And honestly, you could argue her moments are darker than even Art's. And the cameos were nice treats for fans. It was really cool to see Clint Howard and Tom Savini, cause you know they showed up just cause they're probably fans as well. Real quick, I couldn't help but look at Aunt Jessica and think, wow, you really do look a lot like Neve Campbell. Also, I really do love how they went about the expansion of this universe. For example, you could argue by the end of both the original and the sequel, you kinda can ask, what's next then? Or how much further can you go in exploring new ideas? The film really presents new scenarios and creative ways of not only expanding the scope of the universe, but also ensuring new things that can be explored in future projects. Though that does come with an asterisk because I would have loved if it didn't end so abruptly. My favorite bit of the film is honestly the cold open. I couldn't help but think this is such a perfect short film on a twisted idea of what happens when Santa comes into your house. I don't know, I just really liked it. For all its criticisms, much like Halloween Ends, that movie also had an amazing short film style cold open. And similarly to that cold open, this was just as effective. And I don't know how Damien did it, but he was able to make such a visually upsetting film also capture the warm tones of a Christmas movie. The atmosphere, the mall, and cookie baking moments all felt like it was plucked out of a Hallmark movie during Christmas. Those scenes felt so unstaged and presented in a way where anybody could watch it and really feel like this is what Christmas is supposed to look like. Plus, I don't think many people realized how badly we needed to see Santa versus Art. That bar sequence was a lot of fun. It helped that this movie was shot so beautifully, which is such a weird word to use for this film. It's funny because a lot of people consider the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre to have the quality of feeling like it's a taboo tape or a tape that was hidden and not meant to be seen by others. This film had the same effect with its presentation, like a vintage, Lost in the Basement video. I really loved it. But of course, the highlight of the film, and goddamn, the gore in this film is outrageous. Just when you think they couldn't push the boundaries anymore, they pushed it even further. Areas that are usually avoided, self-harm, kids in danger, even animals aren't safe in this film. And because of that, it works to put you in a vulnerable state because what you think is safe isn't. To be fair, I like how it was handled. It never felt like it was a snuff film. It was handled competently. Art and his bag of tricks are so ruthless this time around. The intro, the demolition massacre, and the shower scene, just to pick a few, just leave your jaw floored. The practical effects looked so good. Every time we got a kill, which was sprinkled throughout the movie generously, it kept not only one-upping itself, but also never felt repetitive and kept finding new fresh ideas for the kills. I'd say my only cons with the movie are that while he had a lot less screen time this time around, Jonathan's story was actually very interesting. And I liked that the movie was smart enough to understand that two people can go through the same trauma but go about it in different ways. For Jonathan, it was doing everything he could to basically forget the past, and that included cutting ties with Sienna because she also reminded him of that trauma. We saw he even takes paroxetine to help deal with it as well. But the climax of the film was kind of a gut punch, cause like I get what they were going for with the shock value, since you're conditioned to expect the main characters to not die. So while I get that that was their intention, I can't help but think that it was kind of a cheap shot, because if you're going to do that to one of our main characters, don't let it be off screen. I don't know, maybe that's just me. And the entirety of Mia's character, I thought it was funny commentary that many true crime podcasters are extremely insufferable and also insensitive when they don't know what they're poking at just to get more views. Very reminiscent of Halloween 2018 with those annoying podcasters that are very similar to Mia. So I could have definitely done without her character in this movie. But outside of those small gripes, this film is a banger. And it's not often that you get a trilogy, at least as of this point, where it just consistently gets better. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.